Question 1. Write an integer to represent each scenario and write its opposite. This is review from our last unit on positive and negative numbers. And you might remember that integer just means a positive or negative whole number. So for example, if Tyler's puppy gained 5 pounds, the integer is positive 5 because that is weight he is gaining, meaning we're moving to the right on a number line or up on a vertical number line. He's getting heavier. The opposite of positive 5 is simply negative 5. It's the same distance from 0 on the opposite side. Go ahead and complete the table in question 1 and come back for some directions on question 2. Question 2 and 3 both ask you to plot numbers that could be true given an inequality using absolute value. Let's look at 2 as our example. Find 3 different numbers that A could be if the absolute value of A is less than 5. Plot these points in a number line. Well, let's think about it. The absolute value of A has to be less than positive 5. So, a number like negative 10 wouldn't meet this criteria. Here's the reason why. The absolute value of negative 10 is positive 10. And positive 10 is not less than 5. As I've written the inequality, this would be false. However, if I said that I had A was equal to negative 2, the absolute value of negative 2 is 2, and I know that 2 is less than 5. So I could plot negative 2 as one of my possible numbers. Again, for questions 2 and 3, you're looking to plot at least 3 different numbers that could be A or B given the stated inequality. Finally, we have questions 4 and 5, which review the notation for opposite. For example, in 4a, you can see that we have the opposite, that's the negative symbol, of 3. It can be helpful to write these statements out so that you don't get confused about whether you're finding the opposite of the opposite, or even the opposite of the opposite of the opposite. The opposite of 3 is, of course, simply negative 3. When we look at a more complicated question like C, we have 3 negative symbols. We can think of that in 2 ways. We can think of it as the opposite of the opposite of the opposite of 6. Of course, the opposite of 6 is negative 6. The opposite of negative 6 is 6. And the opposite of 6 brings us back to negative 6. We also could have thought of this question as simply the opposite of negative 6. The opposite of negative 6 is positive 6, and the opposite of positive 6 is negative 6. Either way, you end up with the same integer. You'll finish question 4 and 5 with that notation in mind.